What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Neca unboxing video, or review, figure review, we're also doing that. These videos are both. That's right, it's King Kong time, baby! The new anime show probably maybe just came out when this video is coming out, I hope. Hope this video comes out around the time that anime comes out. The anime is not out yet, but I hope that I post this around that time. I'm terrible at scheduling things, but maybe I did it. Anyways, today I thought it'd be fun to take a look back at one of the Neca Kong releases. This one is actually from 2021, so it's a little old, and this was their King Kong classic version. Okay, I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's the Kong illustrated version, and it's said that it is modeled after the classic poster for King Kong. Now, I have taken a look at many classic King Kong posters, trying to figure out what this is referring to. I don't know of any classic King Kong poster that colors Kong in this way. Most of the posters color him very brown, or some of them color him a little more black. I don't know any that color him very neon and very brightly colored like this guy. This reminds me a lot more of the Godzilla King of the Monsters poster from 1956. Not King Kong 1933, so I don't know. But I do like that Neca released variant King Kong figures. It's fun. They obviously weren't able to play around with other Kong designs because they didn't own the likeness to other Kong designs. If I'm not mistaken, they only owned the brand King Kong, so they could make a general Kong, and they decided to model him after the 33 Kong. I don't know if they could go full force to make him the official 1933 King Kong. I think they could just make King Kong, a big ape, and they decided to take inspiration from the original Kong. They couldn't adapt any design in particular, which is why I think they did variants of the same Kong, because of course they couldn't do anything else. Now, I found one website claiming to know where this may have taken inspiration from, and it could be from the 1974 issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland with cover art by Basil Gogos. And in this cover art, you see a King Kong drawn very vibrantly, a classic 1930s Kong drawn very vibrantly, and he does bear a lot of resemblance to this figure. So that could be what they're doing, because again, legally they couldn't do anything otherwise. To just cover the box art, I think it's really gorgeous. I love the picture they picked. I love the font choice. I love the way that we have the gradient going from the yellow to the red, and then there's kind of like a blueness purple going on at the bottom. Great stuff. Great image on the side here of Kong doing a big roar. I like this one with the more Kong 33-esque head. That's fun. And the back of the box looks great as well. You know, you've got all those poses of Kong. There's a lot of cool stuff. I love the color palette here. I think it's a really, really beautiful box. And overall, I'm really, really satisfied with Neca's box art. And then you open up the inside, you've got Kong in here, and then you've got the pose for Kong here. Well, I guess it doesn't come with the figure, but they put some little leaves by his feet in the box art. That's fun. Well, there you go. There's an idea on how to display him. And then there he is. There's the boy. There's the boy. Weird choice, Neca. I respect it. You know, if they had done this with a Godzilla and it was based on not a real poster, but something random, I would probably be like, Neca, what are we doing here? But that's not the case here, because the legal battles surrounding King Kong are so strange and confusing that I don't blame Neca for just being like, hey, let's try stuff. We've got the brand, we've got the license to King Kong, let's make some fun stuff with it. Good for you guys. I like creative solutions to interesting problems. I don't know, it's King Kong, man. It just makes me happy. Man, I tell you, Neca locked the eighth wonder of the world up harder than they did in the movie. In fact, they locked Kong up so good and tight that one of those clear bands that holds his legs in place snapped and actually made me bleed. Neca, what the hell? Guy had less trouble getting out of his chains in the film. Well, here he is out of the box. There's not a ton to say about him that I haven't said about him already, because I have reviewed the normal Kong, and this is the normal Kong just repainted. It's the same figure, just with a new paint job. I kind of got to break in the articulation here, because he comes out stiff, which is fine, because that just means he can hold his poses better. But that does mean you got to break him in a little bit. And then he should be good to go after a little bit of swiveling and swerving and kind of working with him. And this figure does have a fantastic range of articulation. Again, it is strange because I've reviewed him before. He's got a fantastic range of articulation, and you can get him in all sorts of awesome poses. I really like that about him. They did sculpt this guy so that you can have him on all fours, and he does function like a gorilla Kong. So if you want him to move around a little more like an ape, you can. Or if you want him to stand up a little more monstrously, he can do that as well. Obviously, with a paint job like this one you're going to want want to stand monstrously. That's the fun part of it. Just discussing this headpiece accessory here, I really think the sculpt looks fantastic. It's such a great sculpt. Eyebrows look incredible, the nose looks great. I love the details of the wrinkles on the face here, the stretch marks on the cheek. The fur looks great, the mouth looks great, teeth individually sculpted, the roof of the mouth, the uvula in the back, the tongue looks fantastic. All of this sculpt looks incredible. Even stuff down to the ears and the eyes, it all looks great. They've done a phenomenal job with this, and they make him look so mean and fierce. It's really cool, and I love the paint job on it. I think this head sculpt actually is much better painted than the alternate head sculpt, which is ironic because I'm going to be keeping the alternate one simply because it looks more like the Famous Monsters of Filmland, which is apparently what this was inspired by. But it's funny because this head sculpt actually has a better paint job that more accurately reflects that Famous Monsters of Filmland poster. I don't know what to say about it because it's such a strong artistic and stylistic choice to go from the yellows and the oranges on one side to the greens on the other and almost a bluish hue, meeting in the middle to create these reds. But what I can say, regardless of the strong artistic decision, is that it was executed really well. For instance, the eyes, look at them. They are looking in the right direction. They're looking right at you. They're not cross-eyed or anything silly. They're not perfect, but they are better than a lot of the Godzillas. The teeth look great. They are so well painted, and that tongue, even the tongue has little detailing on it that you wouldn't think it would, but they really went for it with this head sculpt, and they really went for it with the paint job as well, and I gotta commend them because they committed to it, and they did a really good job with what they've done. So while it's a strong and strange artistic choice, they did it really well. Here are the alternate King Kong hands, which is actually what I will be displaying this Kong with, these open palms. These are more for the chest beating, kind of grabbing action. I still am sad they didn't give him like articulated hands or fingers that can open and close, but you know, that's pretty rare. You know, Monster Arts didn't do that either. But again, the sculpts are just so well done with the wrinkles on the fingers, and then you flip them over and there's actual paw prints. You can see detailing in skin and texture. This guy's got handprints and fingerprints. It's really intense. The fur looks great too. They've got the best and most well-realized fur out of any of these types of figures, I think. Even Monster Arts doesn't have this detailed of fur, I don't think. As for the paint jobs, they did make the decision to give him painted nails, which is a lot of fun. But this hand is much more brown, just normal Kong. This one's very green and strange and weird looking, and they do reflect the other alternate hands as well, so the fists have the same color schemes going on. As for Kong himself, he looks amazing. I love all of the painting details. Again, this head's paint job doesn't actually look as good as the other ones. I thought the other ones looked better, especially because you've got this big brown patch right on the side of his head, which could be a quality control issue. I'm not entirely sure if that was an artistic choice or not, but it doesn't appear to be. I also don't think the upper lip is nearly as good, neither is the mouth or the inside of the mouth, but again, they've still done a good job. They've still committed to their premise very well, and this does look a lot like that Famous Monsters of Filmland art. Carrying over from the head into the shoulders, now we're getting into the stuff that they put their own artistic spin on because the Famous Monsters didn't do this. You've got one yellow arm and then one green arm carrying over from what we've seen. Some of the red spills onto the chest in a strange way. It's also on the underarm here. I don't love that, nor do I love the yellow streaking down him. I feel like if you're going to commit, you have to commit a little harder than just that, because they kind of give up the lower you go and he just becomes more of a normal Kong until you get into the one leg that's for some reason painted now green and yellow and a bit of blue on the knee here, and then you move into just a normal foot. So it's like they kind of gave up the lower they went on him. As for the back, they also don't really carry it through in the back either. And I'm not sure why. It's kind of because in the Famous Monsters poster, you can see he does become a little more normal when he gets lower. He's a little more brown when you're not looking at the face, but I feel like if you're going to make a figure like this, you got to really commit to making it strange. Because to me, it feels like they only partially committed and they didn't go as far as they could have. While they did execute what they were going for really well, I just think they could have taken it even further. It's hard to comment on the sculpt again because I've already commented on it. I don't remember what I said about it, but I'll mention some things that I really love about this. It has been an incredibly long time since I reviewed the original King Kong, so I'm not sure if I mentioned these incredible chest scars, reminiscent of both the MonsterVerse Kong and King Kong from 2005. I like that a lot. I think he's got a fantastic sculpt, great fur, great hands. Oh my gosh. As I talked about the head earlier, it's phenomenal. You move down and he's got great legs, great feet, great toes. This Kong looks amazing. He's also got the underneaths of his feet sculpted and peg holes so you can still put him on a stand. I love when they detail the bottom of the feet. It's kind of my metric to see if toy companies are really committing to making a quality figure, because not many people do that. A lot of times you just got production labels on the bottom of the feet and it's like, that kind of breaks the immersion. Moving on to the back, I love the texturing and the detail here where you've got these very defined muscles sticking poking out on the back for the shoulder blades. That's a really good touch, and it looks great, super well realized, and gives him a lot of depth and dimension. Moving through the back, he's also got great detailing. His butt's a little flatter than you'd think it'd be. They kind of gave him these fur flaps to cover up his butt. I guess they didn't want to fully commit to making him caked up, but that's fine. Now, another area this figure shines is the articulation. He's got great range of motion again. You can do great poses with him. There's actually more articulation in the feet than I realized, as you have a ball joint in the foot and a hinge in the foot. So that's 4 points of articulation per foot, and I think 12 points of articulation in the legs alone, because again, you've got a ball joint in here and hinges in here, so he's got more articulation than you'd expect. You've also got articulated knees, which have hinges as well, and ball joints. The calves are articulated. You move into the chest and the torso, which is also articulated. Getting into the arms, again, you've got the ball joint hinge combo, which I don't know if you should count as 2 points of articulation or 1. You'll have to let me know in the comments. I'm going to count it as 1 for this video because I've always counted it as 1. So I'm going to take back the 4 for the feet and give them 2. I could see them being counted either way. The shoulders are articulated. The forearm is articulated. The elbow is articulated, of course. The front of the arm is articulated, and so is the hand, again with hinges and ball joints. And then as for the head, that's articulated as well. Can't pinch that mouth though, too bad. Wish he had an articulated mouth. I wish he could go Overall, I count 20 points of articulation if I'm counting the hinges and the ball joints as 1 point of articulation, as I always have. 20 points is really great. As I talked about when I reviewed this guy originally, this is pretty much a perfect figure. They've done such a great job with their King Kong. I really like the sculpt. I love the way it captures the 1933 design, even though legally it couldn't be that. I just think it's a phenomenal figure. I guarantee I touched upon the scars in the original. In the King Kong comparisons here we are comparing him to his original Kong self. This is how I've had mine displayed for a long time now. He's got the bloody chest scars, so I definitely mentioned them. That's really cool. But there they are together. Of course, they're the same figure. One's just painted different, and they do stand out when you look at them from afar. You can see there is a difference between them. Even way back here, you can see there's a difference between them. So on the shelf, they're gonna pop next to each other. They're not gonna look like you have two of the same figure. They're gonna complement one another, which is good. Yeah, good duo here. I like them both in different ways. I really do think Neca kind of made the perfect King Kong figure with their original. The Neca figures are 8 inches tall, so they're on the taller side. Standing next to his smaller, much smaller, I think this guy must be like 5 inches. Standing next to the Playmates Kong Skull Island Ferocious Kong. One of them clearly towers over the other, but these are both very, very well realized figures. Even next to each other, they complement each other pretty well. This is obviously a lower end, this is a more middle end figure, and they both represent pretty much the peak of what you can do with Kong in either medium. So I like seeing them together. There they are. They're the dynamic duo. Now comparing him next to his also hunched over. I always hunch my Kongs over. I feel like they look better that way. Comparing him next to his Godzilla vs. Kong SH Monster Art itself, this guy's teeny, teeny, teeny. I know the debate's always SH Monster Arts versus Neca, and I've already probably covered that when I reviewed the SH Monster Arts figure. In retrospect, I think Neca's Kong probably has a better sculpt than SH's, but I think I like SH's more just because it does have more articulation ability, and I think he looks a little better with other figures on a shelf. The Kongs, just given how big they are and how lanky they are, the Neca ones kind of stand out awkwardly. But there they are. You've got the proto-ancestor. He's not really the ancestor because it's kind of Neca's own design, but the proto-ancestor and then the current iteration. But only one of them has the axe. And then it would not be complete without me comparing him against a Godzilla. So here's Neca's 1962 Godzilla. Now, he's way taller than Godzilla. I don't know why the Kong is so tall, but he really is huge. Maybe it was just so that they could have him proportionally large enough to hunch over like the gorilla. I don't know. But here he is next to the Godzilla that fought a King Kong, and you can blast them and whatever. And I know there's talented toy photographers out there who have done some crazy good mashups with these guys, I'm sure of it. But here they are next to each other. Again, the Kong scale's a little weird next to the Godzillas. You'd think they'd be about the same size, but the Kong's about an inch taller than the Godzillas, which is silly in comparison, but fine on their own. Now here's the duo I believe should go together, and that is the poster version Godzilla 1956. He pairs really well with this Kong just because they've got those really vibrant green colors that pop from a distance, and they look very strange together. I really like this duo, and I knew I would getting them out of the box. Again, this one is designed after the iconic Godzilla King of the Monsters American poster, so he goes really well with another poster version version Kong. I'm sure this guy was what inspired them to do this in the first place, and they look really well next to each other. I like it. I like that they have a complementary pair now. So my final thoughts here, this is an incredible King Kong figure, but the original was already an incredible King Kong figure. So this one, the metric is, does it stand well enough on its own to justify its existence? And I would say not completely. I think they could have gone further with this. If they wanted to go with this paint job, they should have taken it a little further than they did. They didn't commit as hard as they could have, but maybe it was because they wanted to be faithful to the Famous Monsters of Filmland thing. Well, that's fine, but this isn't the 1933 Kong. This is the Neca King Kong, so you can take creative liberties. Did the paint job make him worth it? I don't know. I think it depends on how hardcore of a collector you are. I think if you're a really hardcore collector, you're gonna really like the paint job and you're gonna like this figure a lot. If you're not, this one you can definitely skip out on. I feel like all of the praise I have about this guy, generally speaking, comes from the fact that I loved the original Neca Kong. While I do think they've done a good job here, and I really think that they did a good job executing the paint that they went for, I wouldn't say it justifies the price, which was about $30-something when I picked him up. Currently, I see him being sold as low as $15, and I would say this is worthy of a $15 purchase. Buying him at sales price, now that is a good deal. Buying him at retail price or anything over, I'm seeing one being sold for over $70. Now that is something I cannot say justifies its existence. Overall, I think I'd give this guy a 7 out of 10, because again, I'm really impressed with it. I think they've done a great job with it. I just don't think it necessarily justifies its existence, which is what's holding it back. It's also difficult because it's a variant, so it's like you didn't make enough changes. It's not like he came with accessories. He didn't come with leaves or anything like the poster shows him with. If he came with some accessories, then maybe it would be worth it, but they didn't change enough for me to say that this truthfully is a worthwhile purchase at full price. And that'll do it for this one, guys. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. And the support I get from the patrons really does mean a lot to me. It goes a really long way towards supporting this channel and making sure I can keep making videos like this for you guys, especially stuff like the unboxing videos. So I just want to give a big thank you to them. All right, that'll do it for this one, guys. I'll see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.